Welcome, everybody. It's the Savage Patriots on a Friday. I told you guys this morning on my platform that it was going to be a day of hilarity. Well, I don't want to disappoint. And in order to not disappoint, we will intro the show today in the best possible, most hilarious way we could. And please enjoy this little brief snippet that we have in store for you. Enjoy.
First of all, we must internalize the flatulation of the matter by transmitting the effervescence of the Indonesian proximity in order to further segregate the crux of my venereal infection.
I love that. I love that so much. Oh, man, that's so great.
Yeah. So, in other words, now I hope you guys, hopefully you guys watched it, laughed, but also memorized his motions and behaviors. Okay. It's going to come into play later. It will.
And by behaviors, we mean like
Trust
his vocal
me.
inflections, his
Trust me.
yeah.
Just keep that in mind. Okay. So we'll kick off the show right after this. Okay. Coy will be back momentarily. He's doing something. I don't know. There he is. He's probably was eating.
Sorry, I got a 6-year-old
cleaning his beard or something. We are going to be discussing the merits of racism by not only its existence, but by its hindrance of the black folk in these here Americas by the racist system that's in charge upon them since the day of their birth. We all know that.
Brother Marlon, are you going to hypothesize the extremities of what systemic racism has done and how it perpetuated the whiteness of everybody here in America?
Yes, sir. Yes,
all right.
We is going to talk about it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Down by the river.
Now, y'all can call us racist if you want for mocking. But this is how these people sound. Okay, this is exactly. And you think I'm lying? You think I'm lying? Okay.
Pseudo intellectuals.
We consider it performative. Okay, because that's the only way you can espouse the things they're doing. You have to be a performative person. You can't do it straight faced. You can't. So we're gonna kick off today with another one that's going to kind of upset you. I just want to make sure this one isn't as funny. But what it is, what's the best word for this one? It is woefully ignorant on the part of the darky on the screen, and that's what I'm going to call him, a darky. I can't call him a black guy. He's a darky. It's from a live on TikTok, and I think it will encapsulate exactly what we're going to be getting into before too long here. When you hear the ignorance, I think it will be blatantly apparent to you. But he does use some curse words. So if you have infant ears and little, softer personalities, excuse me. I'm going to let it slide. The one that's pushing the racist ideas is the one with the dreads, like I had to tell you that. And he is going to be talking to the guy on the right, who's a white man. So listen, it's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. And we'll let it play all the way through.
Enforcing that. So in college, you're more likely to get a college scholarship purely off of your race. Affirmative action exists. The only systemic racist law in this country that exists is for people of color.
So I have a question for you, Dangs. Now, you mentioned affirmative action. Why was affirmative action created?
I understand why it was created. It was the
No. Fuck you understanding. I need the people to know. Why was affirmative action created?
Because in the past, you had companies, schools, etc., excluding people of color from getting in. So they made that so it's equal.
I'm going to ask you a question, and if you lie, I will kick you off. Now, I'm going to be fair and tell you basically the answer before, and you can give me the real answer. Only one school has done this. But how many schools were sued for affirmative action?
Oh, I have no idea.
One, Harvard. Harvard was the only school that was sued and went to court for affirmative action, right? That would mean every other school that was trying to get sued was not liable, meaning there was no racial discrimination. But remember, you saying that basically black people have black privilege for affirmative action, so let's put it towards the court, right? So the court looked at the only affirmative action case they got, which was Harvard. Do you know about that?
I didn't. I knew that there was cases. And
okay, so you know what? I'm not going to educate you on this. I'd rather educate you. So I'm going to save that, and I want you to do the research. Don't mention affirmative action because you clearly don't know the history. You clearly don't know anything about it, and you're saying random shit. So instead of talking about affirmative action and not knowing shit about it, tell me something that black people already know. So let me continue. So affirmative action, don't talk about because you don't know shit about. So let's continue, right? So you asked me if I can prove any of these things that black people can sue, correct?
Correct.
Right. So let's just talk about how hard that is, right? Let's just talk about police brutality. The reason why we can talk about police brutality is because there's a lot of, excuse me, I'm talking a lot. There is a lot of evidence about police brutality. Now, we both can agree that black people are more likely to be killed by police officers than white people, correct?
Not if you look at the numbers.
Thank you.
If you look at the numbers, yeah, exactly.
Facts.
There was so much wrong
first?
there.
Anybody want to go first? Anyone at all?
Let's talk about affirmative action. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, affirmative action. I, for one, have never been a big fan of affirmative action. You know, we've talked about it on this podcast before about I don't want somebody hiring me just because the color of my skin. It's like, here, give me the little crumbs that you got left. We're just going to hire him because he's a black guy. I'm not down with that. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just the world we live in is, you know, something I tell my niece. I said, if you spend your life asking for crumbs, or if you beg for crumbs now, you're going to spend the rest of your life asking for crumbs. I don't want crumbs. I want the whole cake. And I'm going to get it myself. I'm just saying.
I feel like affirmative action is kind of like participation trophies. Sort of. You know what I mean? And I feel like if participation trophies are the worst things you could ever do to people because it teaches people not to try hard. And it's just they could just scale through life without caring or out giving it something, you know, just because it's just too much for me. I don't agree with it.
No, it's the thing that he mentioned is he's talking about the Harvard lawsuit, right?
Yeah.
That loss, you only need one lawsuit going on to the Supreme Court for them to rule something to be, you know, illegitimate, right? So that's the thing is like you don't need thousands of lawsuits going to the Supreme Court over the same issue. That's not how the Supreme Court works, right? Like, so his argument is stupid in the beginning with. It's like you have no idea how the justice system works or the judicial system works. So you're saying that this guy has no right to talk about affirmative action when you have no idea how the court system works, that you're trying to dismiss his argument over. It's like that's not how that works. And they found, the Supreme Court found, they were discriminating based on race with affirmative action. And it was drumroll to Jay Lee.
Yeah.
To Asians. They were disproportionately affecting Asians in terms of racial quotas. And they were doing absolute damage to African Americans because they were putting people in classes into schools that they had no right to be in the first place because they weren't, it's not that they weren't smart enough. It's just that the curriculums that they were trying to get into, as such as Harvard and most Ivy League schools, have a certain standard. And they were lowering standards for black students in order to get quotas met. Right. So they were doing more damage than they were doing actually good. So he wants to bring back historically, affirmative action was necessary in order to break segregationists. Right. At a certain point, it stopped being about that. And that's when it went wrong. That's when it should have been stopped, but it didn't. We just kept going with it. And all it did was be used as a way to discriminate against certain peoples or ideology. And it is easier because we've had cases of people pretending to be black in order to get into schools. That doesn't happen unless it benefits somebody to do it in the first place.
And to further Coy's point, like not only were they giving free passes basically to, I guess you could say unqualified black students, but they were penalizing the Asian ones for like personality points and you got a shy, withdrawn Asian kid who, would play the violin, so he doesn't meet the quote social quota. And and yet you got, Tyrone, who is an outgoing basketball player, or he's a skilled poet, and but he's not really good with advanced placement statistics and calculus. Like they're going to stick him in these classes at Harvard, and he's not necessarily excelling in those classes, but he's creative and he's black. Meanwhile, Ching Chong Ping is withdrawn. He plays the violin, and
he did too well. Let's see. This is what
with the names, at least, right?
The case showed that Asians had to score much higher on placement tests in order to get in than black folk, right? Which means the bigotry of low expectations was put on black individuals, which put them in a school that they shouldn't have been in the first place, because they lowered the standards for them to make it in, because they couldn't get the quotas they needed unless they lowered the standards. They couldn't have these students meet those standards that they had, so they lowered them. Or at least in their mind, that's what it was.
That's that good old equity right there, right? Equity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're seeing it now within the school system. When it comes to the way they're grading kids these days, they've lowered the percentage of grades. Why? And we showed a video about this before. Why? Because minority kids can't achieve those percentages. So what we're going to do, we're going to lower it and dumb down the whole class just so we can meet the standard of dummy over here. No, if you can't meet a standard, work harder. That's the way life works. If you can't meet it, you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how you're going to meet it. We don't drop down to you. You move up to everyone else. I'm just saying.
I mean, just imagine how a successful black student would feel knowing a guy that's sitting next to him only got in because he met the quota, right? It's like he worked his ass off. He's got the best scores and everything else. And then you said, you got Tyrone here that's like, what is this class again? I was too drunk last night. I have no idea.
Not even Tyrone, just anybody.
But here's
but I know where we're going. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The flip side is that you're also eliminating the ones that do have the scores to get in.
Right. Right. The ones that do work hard and the ones that
you're blocking them from getting. And I'm not talking about the white people. I'm talking about the educated, the ones that want to fight black people that are smarter than half the school. They don't get in. Because they're not even looking at their scores.
That's right.
They're okay. So he wants to bring up the court case of Harvard being sued for affirmative action as a pretext for the guy not talking about affirmative action. But you're pretty much solidifying the guy's position that affirmative action on its merit, on its face, is worthless. Because you're telling me that a school was sued for not enforcing affirmative action in the right way. By your standards. So if you're trying to tell me that, then you are affirming to me that my viewpoint about affirmative action is indeed trash. And it's right. I am right about that. It's trash. So let's look a little bit of affirmative action real quick. It said that it was in an effort to improve employment and educational opportunities for members of minority groups and for women. Affirmative action began as a government remedy to the effects of long-standing discrimination against such groups and has consisted of policies, programs, and procedures that give limited preferences to minorities and women in job hiring. I equate this to wartime funding. Okay? You should not be giving and taxing me for wartime when we don't have war. But you keep the war going because you want the money. You keep racism going because you want to keep affirmative action going. It's the exact same thing. It's the same thing, just on different spectrums. I don't need affirmative action now. Why? Because there are way more opportunities than back in 1945, 1950, 1965. The fact of the matter is affirmative action didn't afford me that. Society did. People have come forward. And here's the thing. The majority of people in 1945, 1950 were not racist towards black people. It was a very minute population that was. We are talking about somewhere in the region of 10 to 15% that were. in comparison to the rest of the nation that was not. So there was no limitation. It was a couple of people in law that did it, that put some things on the books, but people by nature were not that way. So what they ended up doing was to create the problem. And then they found the typical government, make the problem and bring a so-called solution that really enhances the problem. That's what affirmative action did.
Yep. I think it's interesting that he was talking about like his whole question was prove me wrong about being oppressed. And it's like, you know what? He's right. There is a group of people in the United States that are oppressed. It is a smart black man who's conservative. Those are the two things you're not allowed to be in the United States.
Well, you can't have common sense either. You should know that.
Yeah.
Common sense doesn't work.
So we're gonna
what a lot of these oppression pimps like that guy that was on there, you know, a lot of them make
a good one. That's a good one.
A lot of them. Yeah, I just made that up. Sorry.
That was good.
Put that in
That
a
was
book.
good.
Yeah,
But you know, I gotta write it down before I forget. Okay.
Yeah, write that down.
Make that a shirt. Yeah,
right. The people like this make a lot of the things that they say that happened to them up in their head. In their head, it's a mental disorder. In their head, they tell themselves they're oppressed because they live vicariously through things that happen to people throughout the country that could be considered oppression. So what they do, they take that on in their brain. Now I'm oppressed because that black man that lives in New York, I live in California. I'm oppressed because he's oppressed. So they walk around and with this in their head like they're oppressed, and you get hoteps like that.
Yep. Oppression pimps. You got to remember that one. They're oppression pimps.
Trust me, I'm putting that down right now.
That's a shirt right there.
That's the next t-shirt. I'm gonna get me the best purple looking clothes for a pimp, and I'm gonna make sure he's holding down another black guy with his hand like this, and I'm gonna call him oppression pimp, man. It's on.
Put some powder on my hand.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like we keep bringing up with race is that a lot of these leftists and the progressive side are always looking for something that is oppressing them. And it's insane to me that there's literally nothing in the United States that is keeping you down at this point. Like realistically speaking, can you become a rich black man in America? Absolutely, you can.
Do it all the time.
Can you become a neurosurgeon? Yes, you can. Can you be an astronaut? Yes, you can. Can you be the president of the United States? Yes, you can. Right?
You
so
can
there's
make millions
literally
without leaving your house on the computer.
Right? You can be a multi-million-dollar streamer from your house as a black man. So it's like, at what point are you saying that you're oppressed? Like, it's like nothing that anybody else doesn't face, right? Is like cops be cops. They're gonna do things how they want to do things. I'm sorry. Like, there's an issue of policing in the United States. We can all agree on that. Now, is it race-based? I don't know. It might have been back in the day, but I don't think so now. Like, legitimately, like, white people get killed just as much as black people against cops.
White kids are just as intelligent as black. Anyway, so we're gonna get into the crux of the discussion since we've had the parameter set up now. I'm going to play a couple of clips of this individual. I have the time markers here set up, and I want you guys to listen carefully. This portion of the clip was from a debate that he had with a guy named Steele. The topic was, does white privilege exist? And Steele had spoken before and said that he gave some examples of what he considers blacks having more privilege than white people, and how he's yet to benefit from this theory of white privilege. And he has yet to see anybody really benefit from the idea of white privilege as a system. So this is iSpeak's rebuttal, I guess you can call it that, to his statement. In case you can't figure it out, the moon pie on the left is iSpeak.
White privilege makes my back hurt.
It
I got a clip for after this. This is actually really funny. That's
man. When you hear this,
oh, I like Steele.
Like
Steele's
I said,
my homie.
Remember the Oates guy, the living color guy. Okay, remember him.
Yeah.
Remember that when you hear this. I don't think I'll have to remind you because I think you'll hear it.
So when we talk about white privilege, right? PhD candidate in political science, Ratika Gold, denotes white privilege as the social or institutional advantages that benefits white people over others simply on the account of color. Two of the largest misconceptions about white privilege is that it simply doesn't exist just because you don't profit from it. Also, the identification of white privilege does not inherently make you racist. So you go in to look at things such as representation on television, flesh-colored band-aids and stockings, books, dolls, and magazines. Being born white means you were born into a system that validates and reaffirms that you are socially included. When we start talking about white privilege in terms of the criminal justice system, we are 12 times more likely as a black person to be charged for drug offenses than our white counterparts. We're 7 times more likely to be convicted of murder. We're 3.5 times more likely to be convicted of sexual assault. So in this regard, you look at the dynamics of what truly makes up what white privilege is, as well as we look at in terms of economics. Now, I'll save my rebuttal in terms of that for my cross-examination. But when we look at our exoneration record, where we make up 13% of the population. However, we also make up 47%, according to the National Registry of Exonerations, 47% of exonerations. So while we're consistently being convicted, we're also consistently being exonerated.
Just hold on 1 second, okay? I'll go back to it. But I want people to, just like the first, I want you to really listen. Now remember, he said the system itself is racist.
He lost me at Band-Aids.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say Band-Aids got me, dude.
Okay. Can I ask one question? Can I ask one question? Do you consider, isn't skin by scientific definition a membrane?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Is it considered flesh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Skin is considered flesh? Or is it a covering for your flesh?
It's a covering for your flesh.
And everybody has the same damn colored flesh, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a flesh-colored Band-Aid, Moon Pie, is exactly that. Flesh-colored Band-Aid.
Just make them red. That's all.
Like, anyway,
does it really matter? Like,
yeah, it does to him apparently. So I want him to finish this next part because this is the part that's going to get absolutely hilarious. Here we go.
Okay.
Marlon, I'm tired. I'm already tired.
Where'd that video?
I gotta start using more big words, man.
Hey, just watch Umar Johnson. You'll learn a lot of useless big words.
Hold on. We can't hear what he's saying though.
Oh, we can't.
We can't even see it, man.
Okay, hold on.
Oh.
Is it not up?
No.
Okay.
That's why we were talking. Oh.
I was like, what in the world?
There was dead air, man.
Validates and reaffirms that you are socially included.
Let me see here. Oh, his door came off.
Because of our delay. I let you get out your last point.
What number? Where were you at?
I was just like, it doesn't matter. From dynamics of what truly makes up what white privilege is.
That's good.
As well as we look at in terms of economics.
Okay, we were ahead of that.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that white privilege was actually more so popularized by a lady by the name of Peggy McIntosh in 1988. She wrote a 50-point essay on her experiences dealing with things that she inherently gets the benefit of being white. It's ironic because scholars such as W.E.B. Du Bois during the 1930s was also talking about race privilege during this time. So it's ironic that white privilege in and of itself was popularized by a white woman. And at this point, I'm going to yield my final 2 minutes.
Okay.
What are we in Congress?
So a white woman is telling you about her privileges, makes it universal for all whites. However, when a black man like Mr. Sowell tells you that he is not privileged and he has education to back it and he doesn't need help, he's a coon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that kind of weird there. I find it kind of weird. I find that kind of weird.
Now, you notice who he mentioned, right? Du Bois.
Du Bois, the Marxist.
So Du Bois, he's a Marxist. All these hoteps like this follow Marxism. They're all commies. They're all Marxists. When you mentioned him, that should have told you exactly where his mindset is at. And if you go look at William Du Bois and you go look at Booker T, they were coming up around the same time, I think.
Yeah, they were contemporaries.
Booker T is what we would call today black conservative.
He had some good music, though.
Yeah, Booker T. Okay. All right, you threw me off. Du Bois was your typical Marxist. He was a radical. Booker T was more about education, getting smarter, getting out there and doing work to get what you got to get in life.
Yeah.
Du Bois was more about give it to me. We're going to take it by any means necessary mentality. So just when he mentioned that, you should know, where he comes from.
Here's the other linchpin to this. Du Bois was a freeman born of white and black parents, while Booker was a slave that became free. One had privilege and money. The other one came from nothing and made something of himself. And the one clown on the screen is backing the one person that actually was a part of white supremacy to begin with.
Yeah.
That's
how that works.
But
come on, man.
Booker T. Washington is a folk hero, American folk hero. If you really want to think about it, like a man that brought himself up as a slave, taught himself to read, and became one of the best rhetoricians out there, right? He could give speeches for days. This man was intelligent, right? And it just shows the ingenuity of people to be able to come out of hardships and make something of themselves. And that's exactly what he did. Like that's an American hero we need to be celebrating, right? Guy deserves his own day, in my opinion. Anyway, but his thing was always about slow integration. Even from the beginning, he was talking about like it's going to take time to integrate fully, and the only way to do it is to do it slowly, because if you shock the system too much, it will buck against it. That was his entire argument, is that we have to slowly integrate. Pushing violently or forcefully into the system is only going to break it. And that was his argument, and that's what we've seen with a lot of that. So that's why him and Du Bois were so at odds with each other in that ideology. Same thing with Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X. Right? Exactly the same thing. Same ideology. Slow integration versus militant integration.
Take over.
Yeah.
What's this?
Oh, yeah. This is funny since we're talking about white privilege.
Well, I knew from the lights.
Dude? Really?
I already.
Oh, this is what's his name?
Jill Patrick.
Yeah.
I drive it.
Oh, I love it.
Brilliant, right?
That man is a genius. He literally white privilege cards.
Probably triggering people left and right.
Oh, forget it. They hate him.
I would like to actually cover white privilege for a second.
We're getting there, because this next one is about exactly that.
Okay, I'll wait until after that.
Yes, I want you to hear this portion right here. It's again him speaking, but this time he's speaking to Sayan. I don't know how many of you know the guy on the right.
Oh yeah.
Good guy, real good guy. He's endured quite a bit from people like iSpeak. But just listen to this carefully and tell me if it makes any sense to you.
I'm starting time. Race in and of itself is a social construct that came about around the 1600s. By the 1800s, it was used to rank people in the English colonies. Europeans saw themselves as free, Amerindians who had been conquered, and Africans as slaves for labor, right? And this is as per Britannica, which is a widely respected encyclopedia. Now, when we delve into what exactly racism is, right? And I was sure that the definition was going to be brought about. However, the conventional definition has since been changed. Racism in and of itself is a belief that a race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. Also, the systemic oppression of a racial group to the social, economic, and political advantage of another, a political or social system founded on racism and designed to execute its principles. Now, when we get into the systemic implementation of racism in and of itself, in the 18th century, Europeans began to publicly assert that Africans were naturally inferior, thus justifying slavery. Now, when we run on up to the 19th century, race had been taken on a species level and gave the mid-distinction between blacks and what we now know as whites, right? So, legal slavery in and of itself ended in 1865. However, due to the passing of the 13th Amendment, which understands that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime where the party shall have been duly convicted, meaning that while slavery in and of itself in its legal form has been abolished, under the 13th Amendment, it is actually still legal.
False, and lies. It's just not true. I don't care what context you put this on, it's not true. Just because you make that correlation does not make the correlation true, nor did you, because you say it, makes it true. You just finished giving a definition of what jail time is. It is not the same as slavery. I don't know how these people get. I'm confuzzled as to how they make it. I'm confuzzled. Can someone please break this down for me? What sense does that make?
It makes none, because for one, jail, you go there for things you've done to serve time for crimes committed. Slavery was a totally different monster. You know, they were taken unwillingly away from wherever they came from and forced to do labor. One of the requirements in some jails, because I worked at a jail for 5 years, in order to cut your time. So it's not like these guys are just in there slaving for free. No, they're losing time as they're working. So as they work, they're getting something out of doing that work. They're getting less time on their sentence. So you can't even correlate the two. Slavery was slavery. You didn't know when it was going to end. These people know. They were like, okay, I just worked for a month, so that's 2.5 days per day, or whatever, however the math works, I forget. But as they're doing this so-called, what he called servitude, time is coming off their sentence.
I don't understand it.
This is how they put it. It's because African Americans are in prison more often than whites. They see that as slavery. It's because we're trying to lock up black people and putting them in prison. Therefore, we're enslaving them, right? And then forcing them to work. That's the argument that the left makes.
Yes.
That's where they're coming from.
Yeah, but so then they're white slaves.
Yeah. In the same vein, if you want to say it like that, but like they don't see it that way.
Yeah, they're all everybody.
They don't see it that way.
It's only the black people that are slaves.
And
when you have privilege in jail too.
Yeah, they do. And when did he said something about the racism or whatever? When did that something about racist? And I just said,
he was talking about the
abolition of slavery.
Yeah, during that time, during the 19th century, right? You had certain scientists who were saying that people were inherently inferior based off of characteristics, and one of them was skull measurements, right? So like historically, people are dumb. Okay, they came up with some crazy batshit crazy ideas, right? So they thought some stupid things in order to justify the things they were doing. Absolutely, there were, but there was tons of others that fought in the actual opposite direction in order to help black folk.
Yeah.
Mainly abolitionists.
I just sent a poster to the chat, and this talks about the word racism that was created by communists. And then it just it just tells you these people's mindset. This word was created by communists in order to silence the opposition from accepting communism.
Yeah.
So they created the word racist. I think it was in 1927, but I sent it to the chat just so you know it. Yeah. That guy's name.
The other thing that I think is important to note here with this discussion about the advent of race, they were also basing it off of behavior.
Yeah.
The behaviors of certain tribes, of certain peoples when they went to certain areas, and you can't tell me, I'm sorry, powers of observation should be taken as some sort of with merit. Okay, if I go to a region and my background is in a certain type of behavior and I have gauged that behavior as civil, that's what I gauge it as civil. I go to a different region and the behavior of that particular region is completely counter to my behavior, I'm going to see it as savage. And I will associate just by its facial merit that color, that was what I associate with savagery, because that's how they behave. It's not just the skull, and I'm sure the skull measurement was their scientific proof to their visual observation.
Yeah,
I could easily see that. But here's the other thing. If that's what I observe, you cannot tell me I'm not observing it. If you're telling me then race is a social construct, then you are not black. And you don't have a struggle because of the color of your skin. And if it is a social construct, then at any moment you can choose not to buy into the construct and act differently. If I don't want something to pervade my life, I just have to do what you call ignore it. Just like people who hate me, I avoid people who hate me. Yeah. How is this difficult? If there's somebody who views me as a certain way because of my skin, I don't deal with them.
Nope.
And it's a very easy thing to do in America. It's very easy to do in America to avoid people like that and do your own thing. If you make it a point to go after people that hate you all the time, you know what you're going to always find? Obstacles.
People that hate you. Yeah.
And I don't get this. I really don't. But at the same time, I don't think I'm supposed to.
What?
I thought that was my Obama internet. Yeah. But yeah, I can get where he's coming from. You know, there's this whole saying, you know, whatever you put out, you get in return, right? So if you're constantly searching for it, like we said earlier, find it. If you're constantly searching for something racist, you're constantly searching for something that's bigoted, you're always going to find it because that's what you're searching for.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
When you're not looking for it, when you don't care, you don't see it. But see, people like him, they're actively looking for it. It doesn't matter
ways to make anything racist.
Yeah, well, there it is right there.
You look at the whole, what is it? The Try This in a Small Town song debacle that happened a few months back. People tried they called it a racist dog whistle, and it's just like, well, sure, but the only people who are hearing the quote racist dog whistle are the racist dogs.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like if the shoe fits, lace that sucker.
Right. Exactly.
I mean,
yeah. Lace it up and wear it.
Let his diatribe continue here real quick.
Slavery in and of itself in its legal form has been abolished. Under the 13th Amendment, it is actually still legal. We also look at things such as black codes, right? Around 1865 to 1866, when the abolishment of slavery came about due to the passing of the Emancipation Proclamation, as well as the 13th Amendment, black codes were laws designed to replace the social controls of slavery that were removed to assure the continuance of white supremacy and to further racism and the tenets of racism. Now, individuals who were unemployed, homeless, they were subject to arrest or fined and bound to labor if they couldn't pay. These were the vagrancy laws. So essentially the nature of what was taken away during the time of slavery and the abolishment of slavery, these vagrancy laws and these black codes were brought about to uphold the tenets of white supremacy and continue the racism in and of itself. Yeah. We're all familiar with Jim Crow laws around the 1890s that reinforced racial segregation. Then we go present day. We look at things such as gentrification, mass incarceration, the school to prison pipeline.
None of those things are laws. Absolutely none of those things are the exact same thing as the laws you mentioned before. This is what they do. They do this all the time. I'm going to mention some laws to you, get you in the mindset that these are laws, and then they say, go to today to gentrification and red line.
Gentrification is just investment.
Oops.
What
you
now?
Muted.
Investment? You went out.
Your mic went out. They don't like this topic. It's both
now we can.
Yeah. Okay. So what gentrification is just investment into poor communities. And by that virtue of logic, you say that all black communities are poor.
Thank you.
It is
but that makes sense because remember, they don't consider rich black neighborhoods part of the black community.
Yeah.
That makes extreme sense.
Because it's a different mindset.
And here's something else when it comes to gentrification, right? So if you think about like a lot of these areas where this happens, a lot of those houses and apartment complex or whatever, they're usually government owned, Section 8, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you want the government to pay for you to give you a place to live and they're giving you low income rent and all this stuff, expect the government to come in and take it. We say this all the time. If you want the government handout, don't cry when they come and take that handout. So you want the government to give you a place to live for very cheap. And if they wake up one day and said, somebody just offered me $10 million for this. So
right, we need it for some illegals.
Prepare to move.
Yeah, it's like then you should be calling that a class struggle. It's not a race struggle. Right. It's a class struggle.
Thing.
But can we also understand that? Okay, sure, fine. Let's give them the whole white supremacy argument. Then let's put the blame exactly where it belongs. It should belong to those laws that were passed back in the 1800s.
Yeah,
those laws were passed by white liberal Democrats.
Thank you.
The same
people they vote for today.
Yeah, it's funny to me because like when you're talking about gentrification, like poor white people are getting pushed out just the same as any other minority group, right? Like, so you go into these poor neighborhoods, like it doesn't matter what race they are. It's like I can't afford to live here because they've raised the rent, or I can't afford to live here because the property taxes went up. Has nothing to do with what color your skin is.
Right, I'm proof of that. I moved down here 5 years ago. I lived two doors down. My rent used to be $900. I'm 2 doors down now. It's $1,400 now.
Yeah.
So like
and that's everybody in the U.S.
and I'm white. I mean, does that mean that I
No,
can cry
you're still racist.
and I can say that the system's racist?
Yes.
No.
It's your turn.
Well, technically, you are a minority because you're a ginger and a Jew. So
yeah,
like,
I know,
I
pay my rent in pennies, so you know.
He's a ginger Jew.
Exactly.
Kanye
Jew. So that's a double minority.
Kanye might be watching this podcast.
So he's a ginger. A
ginger. Nice.
A ginger. That's great.
He's a ginger.
So like. This is what they always do when they do these arguments, is that they will completely skip over the fact that there are poor whites that exist in this country, right? I live in Arkansas. I grew up in Arkansas. I know what poor white looks like, okay? It's the exact same as poor black. There is not much difference between the two of them, right?
Only the sound is...
No, even then, like there are similarities completely between the two people, right? And so you will never be able to convince a poor white redneck or that they are privileged in any way. That argument is never going to fly. You cannot convince somebody that has lived poor their entire life that they are oppressing Oprah.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a second. I'm oppressing Oprah.
I done drove through some white hoods, right, in the military. Some areas, some trailer parks, some white hoods. I even go like this. Click. I lock my door.
If I see a white crackhead, I'm gonna lock my door just the same.
Yeah, I'm lock my door just the same. Ain't got nothing to do with the racist.
It's like I know they're on meth. I'm shutting my door and I'm locking it too.
You ain't lying.
Yeah, I ain't playing with that meth.
And he's gonna come over here and knock on my window in a minute.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like I will get asked for $1 or $0.25 from the same sort of meth head as I would in the inner city as I would out in the middle of nowhere. Okay.
Right.
They're the same people.
Point blank.
Don't matter.
All right, let's
see what he says.
Upon which that exist that are not disproportionately affecting white people. Now, when we look at things such as reverse racism, right? The American Civil Liberties Research Center denotes it as a myth that undermines what racism is when actually calling it what it is. This decimates that argument / claim, and it is indeed racial prejudice. Now, one may ask, well, what exactly is racial prejudice? Racial prejudice is a set of discriminatory and or derogatory attitudes based on assumptions derived from perceptions about race and or color. Racism in and of itself is based on the systems. Prejudice is based on the feelings.
That's how they weasel out of it.
Facts. So when we look at that, my opponent here must identify the systems upon which that have historically been used, both in the past as well as present day, that oppress white people today. Now, do I believe that it gives validity to the discrimination of white people? Absolutely not, because discrimination of any form of fashion is not okay to anybody. However, words have...
I want people to catch that part right there.
However, then nothing...
I have to pause there because, look, you can't make this up. You can't. Okay, listen, you can't make this up. If you have to verbally tell your people that there's a comma here. However, comma, full stop. This is where
I'm about to be racist. That's what that means.
Orange man bad, end quotes, comma.
Point blank period.
No, it should have been, however, comma, white people aren't real people. So you might as well have just said that. Like,
bruh, come on, man. Comma?
Jesus.
Yo, hold on. That's kind of like Biden's speech. Remember when he goes up there and he's like, full stop, or he'll say something he's not supposed to say. Slow pause.
I'm gonna get in trouble for that.
However, yeah, just know that iSpeak is a veteran, and us veterans don't claim him.
Maybe like, however, comma,
why are you gay?
Why are you stupid?
Why are you gay?
Why are you gay?
This brother
I would
said,
have rather have had that.
However,
let's
comma,
hear this
I'm about
again.
to
Let's
say something
hear it
racist.
again, shall we?
Yeah. However, comma.
Yeah.
I think we need to hear it one more time.
Why do you get question mark?
Let's hear that one more again.
Let's
Ask,
do it.
well, what exactly is racial prejudice? Racial prejudice is a set of discriminatory and or derogatory attitudes based on assumptions derived from perceptions about race and or color. Racism in and of itself is based on the systems. Prejudice is based on the feelings formed without facts. So when we look at that, my opponent here must identify the systems upon which that have historically been used, both in the past as well as present day, that oppress white people today. Now, do I believe that it gives validity to the discrimination of white people? Absolutely not, because discrimination of any form of fashion is not okay to anybody. However, comma, words have meaning, words have definitions for a reason. So in this regard, white people cannot receive racism, and the creators of said system is almost intellectually and historically dishonest to even assert that the perpetuators of a system can be the recipients of the exact same system. And I will yield my final.
And he'll yield. All right, so I'm going to go back to, he said words have definitions, words have
Except for
meanings.
white people.
Hang on.
Sorry.
You said words have meanings, words have definitions, right? Go back. He said words have definitions, correct?
Right.
What is the Webster's Dictionary? The original, not this made-up book. I'm talking about the original definition of racism. Because if words have meanings, words have definitions. What is the true definition of racism? Not this made-up woke definition that you guys came up with. I want to know the original, real definition that applies to everyone, not just one race. But words have definition, no. However, comma, words do have definition.
Yeah.
Like a wish list, Umar Johnson.
This reminds me of a video.
Timu version. He's a Timu version.
He's a Timu
Timu
version.
So I got a video to share. So like this is the same sort of ideology and idea that people say is like, well, they can't be racist because like they don't are a system of oppressors or whatever. And then you have people like this who has a running list of alphabetical order slurs to call white people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So like it's
bruh, y'all were asking for my white people insert collection. I got y'all. We don't gatekeep around here. Y'all can save this video if you like want to, or you can like pause it just to see. This is A through like a little bit of C, so you can save this.
shape,
Nice.
Arctic menace, baking soda slugs, beach flamingos, birch trees, bird caca.
Bird caca.
Bird caca. I was like, I don't know why. Blanco bullies, blanket banshees, bleach balloons, bleach demons, blizzard bliss, borax bats.
Wow.
Actually, that one's not too bad. But
This is just A, B, and C. Jeez,
Yeah.
they got the whole alphabet.
And then bleached snow monkey.
That's a little.
Let that one
I
sink
want
in
to
for a
see. I
second.
want to see this other guy's rebuttal. What he has to say. Are you going to show that?
Capital
we can.
grammar is cauliflower.
Yeah.
Conquer cauliflower cut.
Freaking crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, it's, I just
didn't
wanted
know
to.
we had so many names, man. I'm gonna start using these.
Yeah. Call yourself.
I'm not going to show the rest
That's
of the video,
it.
but it was just an example of
Take
what.
ownership.
This is coming from a generation that appreciates the artistic value of what AP.
Yeah.
What if they came up with a list for black people and posted it on Twitter? They'd be
Nope.
upset.
It's perfectly fine.
I'm now.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
No. Snow
Let me
slug.
Okay, so you guys wanted to hear what the white guy
I
said,
did,
right?
real quick. I
Yeah,
want to see
yeah.
how he responds to the.
Well,
buffoonery.
he actually went first.
Oh, okay.
So I'm
Oh,
gonna go back to where he started.
In this particular workplace, it was a restaurant. The kitchen at multiple times would refer to white people as hectays. Hectay and the Seminole tribe is basically just effing stupid white people. I don't know the actual term, but it is a derogatory term used against white people. I probably heard this word 50 times a day. They made it known at being part of the kitchen staff that depending how they felt, 4th of July was probably one of the biggest days I dealt with racism. As soon as we walked in, we had derogatory terms thrown at us. The heck day, effing white people, this and this. And they actually made it known that these servers, who were also Native Americans, that they would get their food out first ahead of ours as a white person, meaning that they're messing with my money. They're messing with, the workplace, all the above. Again, I'm not going to name corporations, but another corporation at a different time, and I'm not going to say whether it's recent or not. But there is instances with a black man and a black woman who simply just do not do their job. If you were to call them out, if you were to say anything by any means to call them out on the lack of work, anything that they're doing. For example, last week we had the African-American man. One of the managers at the time told him, to do his job. He got onto him. He disciplined him. 2 days later, corporate is calling this manager, who's white, asking if he called this particular person the N-word. It was made up. It was BS. Basically, in that line of work, with what we're doing, what they are doing, I'm not a part of it, but what they are doing is, abusing the corporate system. They know that if they are to cry foul play, if they are to claim that they called them the N-word, if whatever it may be, they know that corporate will deal with that accordingly. And he almost did lose his job.
I want to make one thing clear before he continues. And you can probably see it. Mm-hmm. If you know Sayan, he's normally not this inarticulate. But here is what, and I'm sorry to tell you white people this. Here's what you have allowed to happen. You have allowed certain individuals, certain types of blacks, to make you so fearful of speaking your mind that you end up looking like a bumbling idiot in front of them. Mm-hmm. They have made you so fearful of stating obvious stuff. Like, it should be obvious. If the black dude is acting a fool, I should be able to call him out for it, for not fear of being called a racist just because he's an idiot. If you're stupid, I should be able to call you stupid. You're not stupid because you're a black person. You're stupid because your brain cells don't function. But white people have been put in this little basket now where you cannot even say anything about black people for fear of those buffoons calling you racist. Mm-hmm. I want to give you some advice, and please take this to heart. Stop letting morons dictate your speech. That's right. And I mean that with all I can muster. You have to stop letting them dictate your life. You didn't have no slaves. You never abused no Negroes. Stop letting these hoteps tell you how to feel and how to speak. Because what they're getting from it is they're getting off on power. They're getting off on it. It's a fetish for them. I believe it's a sexual fetish for them. I really do believe that. Not just a mental fetish. This is a sexual thing for them. Because if you watch the majority, listen carefully, if you watch the majority of them that act this way, masculine females and effeminate males. Tell me I'm lying.
No, you ain't
Tell me
lying.
I'm lying.
No.
Every time you see it, it's a gay dude or a masculine butch woman that talks this stupid stuff. Every time.
And that's fact. And to chime in on that, just look at things that happen around our country, like in the news. Whenever something bad happens to a white person, you get black people that actually praise it and cheer it. They are happy that at the demise of somebody that gets jumped, hit, and not all, but there are people out there like that, and you rarely see it on the other side.
Yeah.
And like Marlon said, they get off on that power. Yeah, it's their turn. Get them. They don't care about justice.
No.
It's all about revenge to them. Revenge for things they didn't even freaking go through.
Right,
It's
and that
crazy.
we didn't even do. It's crazy.
It's a mental disorder, man. I'm telling you.
It was a complete lie. Let's do this.
As you can see, it's extra nervous for no reason.
You look at the definition of racism. Let me see right here. It is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their racial or ethnic group. If you look at the definition of prejudice, preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience, harm or injury that results or may result from action or judgment. Now, if you look at the difference between the two, which I am under the assumption that you believe that I can deal with prejudice but not racism. Therefore, the difference would basically be that I hold some form of superiority, some form of being the majority, whatever that may be. I could argue, or I could play devil's advocate in terms of systematic racism, which right here, where's the definition for this? I don't have an actual computer. I am using.
I think we get the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not doing very well for himself.
He's not doing well because he's been, and I like saying, good guy, but he has been programmed to be fearful of speaking his mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is, look, if you look at it anywhere, and they make fun of it, black people make fun of this all the time. Go ahead and say the N-word. Under threat of what? Under threat of what? I'm going to beat you up. Right? I'm going to beat you up. Say it. So I'm going to whoop you. Go ahead, say it. They tell you that in order to make you more afraid of saying anything. They don't even want you calling them black. They don't even want that. So here's the thing. You want to really mess with them? You tell them that the N-word is mine because we made it up.
Right.
It's
we're
not
taking
your word.
We're taking it back.
It's not your word. We're going to take back our word. It's ours. We called you that to begin with, and I'm going to keep calling you that because that's how you behave. Now, you know what they're going to hate? They're going to hate that because you're actually trying to, they're going to say you're being racist. No, I'm being real. I'm being real. If you say it's a construct to begin with, then it shouldn't offend you. If you're that weak that a construct offends you, then you're a sissy male. You're not a real man.
Yeah.
But we know that about iSpeak already. He's already into this polyamory. He already lost his wife because of it. He's a piece of trash human being. So anything he says past that point is inconsequential. He's accused of SA. He's that type of dude. Remember I told you that they're always a sissified type of male? You try to make a power play over female when you can't get what you want. You become a predator. That's iSpeak. That is iSpeak.
There's an inherent, I guess, schism, you could say, in their ideology. So in order to believe white privilege exists and is real, you also have to believe that white supremacy is paramount. So like they believe that white people are inherently superior to other people by believing in white privilege because they automatically are gifted and granted it at birth. So divine right of color has now granted you all of these things. Everything the light touches is yours.
Yes.
Right? So you have to believe in white supremacy in order for white privilege to actually exist.
Right.
And yet, what's interesting about all of this is that you look at statistics, you look at data, you look at, everything from the Department of Labor to the Department of Education and all the other stuff. Why is it that people who look like me do better than people who look like Coy and Ginger, but we live in a white supremacist nation where I should not even have the opportunity, let alone the composure to be able to even represent a racial demographic that succeeds and does better. Shouldn't that be Asian privilege?
It should be.
It should.
The flip side too is if he's talking, and he talked about this earlier about the exoneration thing. If the system was inherently racist, there would be no exoneration for you.
Yeah.
By law. There'd be none. So I don't know what exactly you're looking at that would give you the idea that because you're in a system of racism, perpetual racism by design, but you tell me that you get arrested only to be exonerated by the same system that is supposedly keeping you. Make it make sense, iSpeak, but you can't make it make sense because what you're looking at is the actual opposite. You get arrested for something, and because the system is so fearful of you, it gives you exoneration, even though you may actually be guilty. Because let's be honest, the people that are exonerated usually go back and end up committing the exact same crime months later.
Right.
You don't want to look at the re-arrest record, do you? No, you want to look at the arrest, then you want to look at the exoneration. Look at the re-arrest. Look at why you think they have records. You know why they have records? Because they get exonerated. Exoneration doesn't mean that you're innocent now. It just means that the system decided that we can't make it look bad, so we got to let you go. Because they're not inherently racist. An inherently racist system wouldn't care whether you get away with it or not. Whether you did it or not, it would put you behind bars permanently.
Maybe there.
Yep.
I don't understand this, bro. It shouldn't be this difficult.
But you get a bunch of smooth brains that actually listen to guys like him and other people like his, and just like him, that speak just like him. But they're dumb intellectuals.
This is I'm glad we segued into stats, because this is what we're going to go into is the next idea of the stats, okay? And this is why they don't want to look internally at the problems handling their own issues internally. They don't want that. They really don't. What they want to do is to outsource the thing and say this is that person's problem, that person did it, and unless that person stops doing something, I can't stop doing what I'm doing. I have no choice in the matter. It's proximity and it's poverty. If I didn't have those two factors, I'd be fine. Okay, let's find out here. Listen carefully.
All right, are you showing 7 p.m.? Because I'm showing 7 p.m. your time, 2 p.m. my time. Okay, so okay. Yeah. First and foremost, I would like to say that black on black crime is nothing more than a racist talking point that is utilized to justify the brutalization of black people. When we look at the origins of black on black crime and where it came from, in 1896, the book The Race, Traits, and Tendencies of the American Negro is where it was originally founded. Well, originally brought up, rather. Then in 1970, it started to gain more widespread usage. Then in 1979, it was the earliest frame of reference, modern time, in Ebony Magazine, volume 34, issue 10.
Did he say Ebony?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
I want to align with the sentiments of Professor Muhammad, who has a PhD in history from Rutgers University.
Appeal to authority.
Who essentially states that black on black crime is nothing more than, again, a racist talking point that justifies the brutalization, give me a second, of black people, which henceforth brings about the creation of programs such as the war on drugs, stop and frisk, things that inherently push this idea and this notion that black people are just inherently violent, need to be policed more, and justifies our brutalization. Now, if we look at statistics,
here we go.
The Bureau of Justice statistics of those whom commit violent acts toward one another. This is the reference. Hispanic on Hispanic, 45%. White on white, 62%. And black on black, 70%. Now, let's also put this into perspective. This is those whom commit violent acts towards one another. Because we understand that crime is about proximity. And those that genuinely look like you are those that are going to murder and or brutalize you at a higher rate than those that don't.
Can I pause? Can I pause? What year did he bring that up? What year was that?
I don't know, because really it's inconsequential to the argument. I'll tell you why it's inconsequential to the argument. If you want to tell me that black people should be more in fear of white people, because white people want to see the demise of black people, but then you want to tell me that 70% of the time, proximity is the reason black people are getting damaged because of black people. Where is the issue with white people? Because they don't live next to you, right?
This much.
Okay, they don't live next to you. So they don't live next to you. Okay, they don't live next to you, but they pose the most existential threat to your life. But when you don't live, meanwhile, you live next to the person, and even, okay, there are more white people in America than there are blacks, and they're 20% lower than you when it comes to killing each other.
Yeah.
What? Oh, how? So? Okay, tell me, explain that to me. Let's not even worry about numbers. Let's worry about proximity. If white people are always around white people because they don't want to be around Negroes, and they only kill each other at a 60% rate, and you're doing it above 70, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
What does that tell you? I want to know what that tells you. That tells you that it's not white people is the problem. You are the problem to your own people.
Because that 30% is split up between every group in the United States. So, like, you're talking about 70% of crime against black folk is other black folk, right?
Right.
That's 70%. Now, you're talking about the oppression of black people via white people in the other 30%, plus what other demographics you have to add on to that. So it's not even the full 30.
No,
that is apparently white people.
I would even go so far as to say it might even be somewhere around the lines of 15 to 18%.
Yeah,
but I did read this article in Playboy magazine that said.
All right, continue. You have my ear.
It's kind of like Ebony.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I want to say, in conclusion, black on black crime is nothing more than a racist narrative that is utilized to justify the brutalization of people, as well as to justify the over-policing of black communities. And I'm going to yield my last 3 minutes.
Great. Since he yielded, I got a question. It's like, is it wrong? Like, because that's what he says. It's like the talking point. It's a racist talking point. But is it wrong? Does the numbers say it's wrong? Right. If it is a fact and not just a talking point, I can use talking points all day from everywhere else. But is it true? Is the statistics on that talking point true? And that's the thing he will have struggled to answer, is it true? because that's the basic thing. It's like you can't deny the statistics put out. Well, you can't deny it, but I'm just saying it's like they're there. That's what the numbers were given. So we're going on based off the numbers we're given. That it's true.
Right.
In fact, can we look at the numbers, because I think I
bring
know
that
the
up right
exact.
now.
Look, in fact, I think he quoted from the 2018 Bureau of Justice,
which is completely old. Like I even had trouble trying to find current statistics.
Well, they don't have 2022 yet.
No, they only have the crime in the United States for 2019, and then they've got the criminal victimization, which is 2022. Is the only recent one.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to bring this up. And this is the FBI table. Okay, this is from 2016. Because since he's not giving dates, we're just going to pick an arbitrary date. 2016. Let's say that's the most racist date because the most racist person got elected president, which was Donald Trump. Let's go with that. Okay,
yeah, there you go. That's the way I got it.
I'm going to go with the most efficient idea and concept that I got, which is racist year, racist president, best time to pick. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's look at this real quick. This is the offense charge. Okay, this is the arrest, and this is the percent of distribution. Okay. So you have here, let's go with one that they say they don't do a whole lot. Let's go with what's a good one? Drugs, okay? War on drugs. So let's go with drug abuse and drug abuse violations, okay? Now, their bracket is the Black American right here, going down, and that one says what? 332,000, right? Okay, yep. Good. Let's see what the whites are. Let's see here. Oh, look, 881,000. I don't see blacks being arrested at the same rate as whites. You say they get more, right? I don't see that here. In fact, I see more than double the amount. Yeah. Anyone else seeing that?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm seeing it. Okay, so let's look at the distribution here. Blacks and whites are in the same column. So let's go down, back again to the drug thing, because, you know, war on drugs and all that stuff. Oh, look, 71 to 26. I find that kind of weird.
Ain't mathing.
It's not.
Okay,
let's do arrests. Let's do arrests. Okay, let's do arrests. That might be the best way on ethnicity. Total Hispanic or Latino, not Hispanic or Latino. 1 million to 5 million. Let's go on down the train. And what line is that on? Drug abuse. Here we are. Okay, let's go across. 91 to 201. 991 to 201. And then up to 790. Again, Hispanic or Latino, non-Hispanic or Latino. The numbers that you say exist are not here. The black people are not being arrested more and given more time than white people. And then this is what they normally come up with. Oh, it's because our number is only 40 something million, and there are more of them, so you're gonna have more than numbers and more than numbers. Okay, let's give you that because there are more white people, they're arrested more because there are more of them doing it. Again, hear me out. If we were to take the percentage of race amount and race amount for the whites and race amount for the black, and you take the percentage, I'm going to bet you money that the amount is higher of arrest for whites. Either way, you're wrong. Either way, your percentages do not work out to your benefit.
And here's the other one. This is 2019 data, right? So a little bit closer. This is murder. Yeah. This is murder. I just want everybody to see that this is FBI statistics, murder, single victim, single offender, right? The most basic we can get. So the victim being black or African American, race offender being black or African American is 2,500, right? This is the total amount of people killed. This is the amount of people that were killed by the person of the same color.
What's that number beside it? That 246 number? What's that? Is that white people killing
That's
black people?
White people killing black folk.
Oh, so that's very low, right?
Yeah. And then look at the opposite end of that. White versus black.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So here's my question. Okay. If that 246 is what black people should be worried about. Now, mind you, you make up less population. You are less in America. You're at 45, 48 million. Whites are at 170 million, somewhere up there.
Yeah.
Hear me out. If that is the case, and whites are the system that benefit most, and all are racist, and they're benefiting from a racist system, and you get more abuse from everybody, how is it that you're only getting killed by white people 246 times, while you are killing your own 2,000 times? And why is it? Why is it that when whites are the victim, you are still up there at 500, almost 600, and you are almost you are lower than, you're more than 1 million less, 100 million less in population. Make that make sense to me. I just want you to make it make sense. You still outnumber them in both departments. Bro.
You also got to think of white people in America make up 60%. 60%. Black people make up 14% at most, right? They commit the same, almost the exact same amount of murders, only by 300 difference on population.
Make that sense.
So white people killing 3,200, almost 3,300, and they in 2,900 in that population difference are killing the same, almost the exact same amount.
Yeah, there's definitely disproportionality to the crime rate.
So like that's what the data shows you. This is the data this is the data. I can't make it any clearer than that. This is the black and white data of what things are.
The reason we're having the discussion, okay, people, is because there are folks out there that are enhancing the system that black people are under, not that white people put them there. The same, and I keep going back to this. If you've ever read Uncle Tom's Cabin, people like iSpeak are Uncle Sam's, or Massa Sam's is what we would call him. They're Massa Sam. If you ever look and see who Sam was in the book, I'll give you a good description of Sam. While Uncle Tom was a slave, he was a slave of slaves, where he would take in other slaves and look out for the slaves. You know who Sam was? Sam was the guy that would join Massa in the hunt to retrieve runaway slaves. And then he would go back to the settlement and talk to the slaves as though he was on their side. You see, you're going to need me to talk to Massa for you so that nothing happens to you. I'll be looking out, even though I do have to hunt you down. Now, this is how he talked to him. Just because I'll hunt you down with him don't mean I'm not on your side. You're going to need somebody to talk to me.
So he was Samuel L. Jackson in Django.
He was. He was the same one that would tell the black folks, and this is how he would, once he got one back, once he found a Negro that ran away for Massa, this is what he would say. I even delayed the dogs so they wouldn't find you so quickly. Or I kept the dogs from biting you so when you came back, you wouldn't be injured. That's his version of helping the Negro. When he got back, he would go report to Massa and go talk to the wife, and the wife would set him up with better food than the rest of the slaves. And then he would go and listen in the back areas to the slave masters and how they spoke. Listen carefully to this and watch and see if I'm lying. If you go back and look at the way the ones who were in charge spoke, it was always this highfalutin kind of talk that you just don't understand, the kind of thing. And if you watch how the blacks at the time that were house Negroes, they spoke the exact same way to the slaves. And if you look at them now, Al Sharpton talks that way. iSpeak talks that way. Consciously talks that way. T. Nathan talks that. They are house Negroes. All of them are house Negroes. They do not care about the people they say they care about.
Right.
They don't. They speak in a way that if you were to run away from the plantation and get to thinking on your own, they will align with a woke white person to bring you down. Jolly Good Ginger, Mike Hoare, whatever his name is, the Horton, Tizzy Ent, Savannah. They will team up with all the woke white people out there to bring your black behind back in line, because you don't say what they want you to say.
Right.
They are shills for the same system they say that is over you. They're a part of it. If there is a system, they're the ones that created it.
They're keeping that system. Yeah, if there is a system, they're keeping that system.
And it's not even a part of the governmental system. This is a whole different societal system that they have created and are telling you that it's the government that's doing it. Just because of your race. I'm not saying the government's good, mind you. I am saying that the government's not celebrating your whiteness or your blackness. They just want you all under their control. The social system that these clowns are a part of do look at you because of your color that you can't do certain things. They're the only ones that tell you that. They will look in your eye and say, you can't accomplish that because of the color of your skin. There go people that hate you, man. You got to side with us. Joe Biden said it. You're going to have to work with us. Otherwise, you ain't going to get nowhere. If you don't work with us, them Hispanics going to be better than you. They got the most diverse society out there. They're culturally diverse. Look at you. You ain't nothing. You got to work with us. You don't see that yet? Come on, man.
They are the first people that will climb up the ladder and then kick it out from underneath your feet as you climb it up.
Gone.
Every single time. The thing that irritates me is that I think a lot of people misconstrue what actually a lot of this is. And it comes down to majority privilege. If you want to call it anything with privilege in it, it's majority. Like any country with a certain group that is in the majority will always have this issue. It doesn't matter where it is. It can be in Africa, it can be in Asia, it can be in Europe. As long as the population is predominantly one race or one ideology or one cultural identity, it will always have an issue with minorities. It doesn't matter where it is. The other thing is that they never want to talk about the Atlantic slave trade for what it was. It was a global initiative by multiple countries and multiple peoples that wouldn't exist without the help of people in Africa. Period. It would not have existed had not the tribes been warring with each other, had they not sold other people for goods and services to Europeans. Europeans could not survive on the African continent because of diseases. People picture this idea of Europeans getting off boats with nets and going around kidnapping black people. And that's not what happened. They went to a port who then was sold to them by other black people in Africa. That's how the trade worked. Or they got them from the Arabs. And the Arabs went and got Europeans and sold them to the East. Same thing. Korea has one of the longest unbroken chains of slavery in the entire world. Right? China had slavery. Every country in this entire world has had slavery at one point or another. It's just like this is the reality. Oh, and we can't forget natives who were the last people in the United States to give up slaves.
Right.
And they never want to call out the native populations for their involvement in the American slave trade.
Period.
Yep.
That's the crazier part.
Yep.
So that's why we're having a discussion, because at some point people have to start waking up to the nonsense that is being spewed, both on social media, in the news, in movies, this cultural appropriation nonsense. You can't take my culture, but you just said you lost it when you came over here. You don't even know what your culture is. You got this culture that you want to push, but when people identify the culture for what it is, you say that's not your culture. Which one is it?
Yep.
You want to say my culture is rap and doing this, and then when we say, look at the culture, what it's promoting, that's not our culture, but your songs say the exact same opposite. Your song says you want to kill each other, and we say it's pushing it. You just don't understand the culture. So then you're telling me that is your culture. So you got to decide. Pick a struggle, fool. Pick a struggle. Yep. Either the rap music you listen to is what you identify as your community, and when we say it's destructive because of the message, you can't then turn back and say, oh, no. You can't dog us like that because that's our culture. Exactly. We're telling you that that's your culture and your culture is destructive. You can't deny it. You can't deny it because you admit it at the very next sentence.
Yep.
Yeah, Snow White's black now. You got Jada Pinkett Smith playing Rapunzel. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you just take the redheads and you replace them with black people.
With black people.
Right.
They've been doing that. Oh my gosh.
The gingers are going to be gone before too long.
Because ginger is an anagram for what? There you go.
Viagra.
Viagra.
So in any case, next week is our Rumble event, not tomorrow, the following Saturday. And I have officially picked my topic because it's a buzzing topic, and I think we ought to talk about it. And it is this. Listen carefully. Drum roll. The pointless existence of Palestine.
Why don't you just grab the third rail? Yeah.
That is what we're going to be talking about, the pointless existence of Palestine. And that is going to be, I know it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but you know me.
That's why it's
I don't care.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So I'm gonna be going all the way back. Gonna take it back all the way back.
Oh, we're gonna start 3,000 years ago at the beginning.
Yeah, let's go down the timeline. Let's figure it out.
Trust me, I'm starting all the way back.
I can't wait. I love Jewish history.
Yep, it's gonna get into it. I'm gonna get deep in the waters. If you guys picked a topic yet, by the way,
I'm gonna do mine that I didn't get to do last.
Okay, I have that one already.
I think we should just do like mainly the Palestine topic. I think
that would actually be a very good one.
Yeah, okay. I think that's gonna take up most of the time, so let's just go with that.
Yeah.
Bet. I bet. So you have to be a part of that, Simon.
Sign me up, pal.
Okay, good.
Sign me up.
Because it'll be good.
I'm here for that.
It'll be good.
Yeah, it's the only Jew in the room to talk about Palestinians.
You have to remember, we normally go for an hour. We've now gone for an hour and 20. So bro has stuff he has to do. He's in school still for cooking. So just remember that. So he has to keep his schedule, which I commend him for. But he did tell us that he was leaving. He just didn't tell you that. We were privileged. He used his black privilege and told us. So just know that. So next week is our Rumble event next Saturday. We have not picked a topic for Monday yet, but we will have one by Sunday, I hope, and let you know what it is. I don't know of any other announcement. Make sure you go we're going to try and get that Oppression Pimp shirt done.
That's going to be good.
I just want to say happy veterans to anyone who has served.
Yes, happy veterans.
Any branch of military, thank you for your service and your sacrifice for the ungrateful pieces of garbage that don't appreciate it. We appreciate it. So we love you and thank you for your service.
Yeah, indeed.
And speaking of that, the Hooch will be on Sunday at 6. There is a video that's been going around of this liberal lady getting arrested by the cops and claiming she's mentally depressed and she's an indigenous person and all that. We're gonna go over that video.
Oh, she's a gem.
Beautiful.
She's a gem.
It's beautiful, and whatever else happens to pop up on the weekend. So we'll see where the news is.
So we'll see you guys then on Monday, Mr. Lee.
Like, share, comment, subscribe, and peace and out. See you Monday.
We out.